Good afternoon and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of rapid-fire racing action in the middle of the pack Racing League Winter GR86 Championship for 2025. The premier Toyota GR86 Cup Championship brought to you on the premier sim racing platform only available on PC, known as iRacing. We're here today in the United Kingdom at the Snetterton Racing Circuit for round number 3 of 8. It's time for a British double-header that will see us out the Free Content Cup. Last time out, we're in Germany at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, and the theme there was that it was 2 for 2 with regards to both of our class leaders in terms of taking wins. Whereas James Logsdon in the Pro class, despite the ambitions of John Lauzon, or in the AM class, Nick Bader being in the world of his own, it would seem, despite Blake Phillips trying to keep him honest, well, the two drivers are absolutely dominating away. But here in the United Kingdom, we're at a very different style of circuit, and could that lead to a major shake-up in the standings? Spanning 2.98 miles in length, this Norfolk County circuit is the second largest in the United Kingdom, but arguably the most technical out of all the British racing circuits. Once the site of a former Royal Air Force Army base, it has gradually turned into a racing circuit over many a year, and it has gradually evolved into a 13-corner Goliath, where it's all about knowing each and every corner like the back of your hand. Whether it be sweeping corners, chicanes, hairpins, alternative extended straights, there's a little something for everybody here, and with that mixing up of the corners, and indeed the layout of the circuit, the only thing it's lacking is elevation change, but that's to be expected given that it's on the site of an airfield. Could this be the round where everything is shaking around? We're going to find out as we welcome you to this live broadcast from circuit side, albeit you are tuning into a post-round broadcast. What does that mean exactly? Well, the racing action you're seeing on screen is not live, but we're presenting it to you as if it were live. This race had occurred earlier in the week as of Wednesday the 12th of February 2025, but of course it is Saturday the 15th of February, and we're bringing you all the racing action as if it were live. So that means here in the content booth, we do not know how things go on, whether it be in the final practice session that's currently ongoing, the upcoming qualifying session, or alternatively the race, and we do ask that you do not put any spoilers in our respective chats, whether it be on Twitch or YouTube, in order to make sure there's no spoilers for the guys and girls tuning in at home or uninitiating the results and here for us in the content booth as well. But where are my manners? Allow me to welcome you all to this broadcast, whether you're tuning in firstly on YouTube, and that's at youtube.com, and search for Paul Walsh, alternative TX11TX, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube, or on the other means, you can be tuning in via Twitch at twitch.tv/TX141, and welcome to you guys and girls tuning in via Twitch. I'm your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll be bringing you all your racing action. And speaking of our racing action for today, our scheduled times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time UTC, as we can see in just under 11 minutes time, we'll be making our way out onto circuit for our 15-minute qualifying session, that's split into 2 equal halves for AMs and pros, after which we'll then be making our way to the grid for what is a one and only race on the schedule for today. 30 minutes in duration from 5:30 this evening, our sprint race, and we'll get to see there whether our championship leaders in both the pro and the AM classes can make it 3 out of 3, or whether somebody will finally break the deadlock. But as we come into today then, let's give you a recap of the championship calendar so far and what we've still got lying in wait. And as we can see, we are now a quarter of the way through the overall season and halfway through the Free Content Cup. The first cup of the season, of course there are 2 cups, and the first one being rounds 1 through to 4, is an entirely free cup. So if you're brand new to the iRacing service, all the content that our drivers are racing on is absolutely available for free. You don't have to spend a single penny other than the iRacing subscription in order to get access to the service. And we start off the journey in Spain at the Circuito de Navarra. That was in round number 1, and last time out we're in Germany at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben in round number 2 on the 5th of February. We got to see some absolutely tantalising racing action, and it was John Lauzon absolutely breathing down the neck of James Logsdon every step of the way, whereas in the AM class, Nick Bader once again found himself battling just as much for the pros as he did with the AMs, with Blake Phillips being the runner-up and finding his way to 2 second places out of 2 as well. But after today, we'll make it away to the Alton Park circuit, all the way over towards the Welsh border, albeit still in England, and the Cheshire County circuit, and Alton Park will be playing host for our first feature race round of the season on the 19th of February, and that will see us wrap up the Free Content Cup. After that, we'll have a mid-season break, and we will return on the 5th of March for what is our final 4 rounds of the season, the Roval Cup, which will be hosting the United States of America 4 Roval circuits at some of the major oval racing venues across the whole country, whether it be the Phoenix 2008 course, the one at Charlotte, alternative at Miami in round number 7, or Indianapolis, to bring the curtain down and bring everything to a close. And I can promise you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, with all the rounds we've got remaining, anything is possible before we see that final checker flag fall on the 26th of March. But as we come into today then, let's give you a recap of the championship standings after 2 rounds. We start off with the Pro Drivers' Pro Drivers' Championship. And as we can see, James Logsdon leads the way on 102 points to the 92 of both David Adeyee and John Lauzon. Whereas in round number 1, it was about David Adeyee being second best to James Logsdon. Meanwhile, last time in round number 2, it was John Lauzon who was second best, and therefore that's where you see the runners up there, as they currently stand, both equal on points and itching to try and claw one back versus our leading man Logsdon. Meanwhile, outside of the top 3, we do have there in P4 none other than Julian Jones, who right now is trying to close down the top 3, but he's 6 points afield, but he's 6 points ahead as well as Shahi Zahair, with Edwin Offred just sitting outside the top 5, a further 6 adrift, and it's 2 points between him and George Louise, with Tom Bryce, Aaron Lahr and Aaron Tiggott completing the top 10, and then we do see Kai Moraes there. A bit of duplicity with Aaron Tiggott's name there, but there's 11 pros in the standings, and Kai Moraes is P11 on 39 points. But then coming on to the AM Championship standings, well, as we can see, Nick Bader is the man who leads the way, albeit by an advantage that's a little bit less compared to the pro advantage of Logsdon versus his peers. Bader only leading the way by 7 points, and Blake Phillips there keeping it honest as best as possible. But then we have a bit of a battle for P3 growing. Mark Senegal and Roger Ganesh both on 63 points, and both drivers there absolutely hustling to try and get into the top 2. And the Sunday GT Turtles teammates there both had a bit of squabbling at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, but they managed to sort it out. But could we see a little bit more elbows out between them today? And indeed, could we see elbows out versus Blake Phillips or Nick Bader, or will they continue the status quo? But in P5, it's Billman DaCosta. The Bear Poke driver having a difficult day at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, things not quite clicking together the way he wanted them to, so therefore expected to try and rebound today, with Glenn Bratton there in P6 of 58 points alongside Marlon Brandel, and Brandel after that brilliant P3 at the Squito Navarra, it all went backwards at Oschersleben, and therefore he's also another one who'll be looking to launch himself back to success today. It's a further point to P8 driver Kyle Peterson, with then Jermaine Warren and Nick Yakubov completing your top 10. Outside the top 10, making his debut for this championship last time out, it was Jason Seelin on 27 points, P11, and Navra Kamar, who missed the last round but was on the grid for round number 1. He sits last but not least P12 on 25 points. Coming on to the Teams Championship, well, we've got 7 teams competing in this winter season, and as we can see, it's ITD West Senior Vice Presidents, the first of the 2 teams that leads the way on 172 points, by the best part of 9 points clear of Bear Pope 0, and it's a further 13 points to ITD West Interns Pro Esports Division, the secondary of their 2 teams there, and it is a grand total of 22 points separating the top 3. Sunday GT Turtles bringing up the rear in the top 4, they're on 126 points, and hoping to get a little bit closer to the top 3 today, but they've got a sizable gap of 50 points to Le Pit Club Sim Racing, and Caboose Crew and Slipstream Softs wrap up the standings there, and already we're starting to see the emergence of what is a 2-tier fight in the Teams Championship. There's the battle for the overall lead inside the top 4, and then there's the battle to be P5, it would seem, but then again, we're only 2 rounds in, and everything could be mixed up after today, or indeed at the end of the Free Content Cup in a week's time. But from the theory crafting to our circuit for today, and here we are then at the 300 layout, or the Grand Prix layout, you could also think of it as, for the Snetterton Circuit, located near the town of Snetterton in the county of Norfolk in England, the United Kingdom. And thank you to iRacing.com as always, not just for their brilliant simulator, but the track maps that are also contained within it. And on this 2-dimensional map, well, it will feel quite 2-dimensional, the circuit, given the lack of elevation change, and therefore this map really does bring to life the circuit as it best as it possibly can for an image, in the fact we do have the best part of 13 corners over its almost 3-mile length, and it is a tremendously tricky circuit to get absolutely right, with one of the longest laps in the British calendar when it comes to overall lap time as well. And I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, a lap for our Toyota GR86 drivers today is going to be just over 2 minutes. It is an incredibly long lap, and therefore it will definitely feel as though it's a mini Nürburgring in the United Kingdom. For as the drivers roar the way down the start-finish straight in towards Rich's corner at turn number 1, they'll need to deal with the double right-hand apex. They'll sweep them on through and charge them all the way out towards what used to be known as the Montreal hairpin at turn number 2, but renamed to Wilson in honour of Justin Wilson back in 2016, and they'll be braking hard down into that apex. Coming out of the turn 2, the sliced corner on the circuit, they'll then make the way into the infield section, or the 100 section of the circuit, as they head in towards Palmer Corner at turn number 3, named after the infamous man who owns the MSV brand that owns this circuit. And I do believe his son, Joylan Goes Racing, and Jonathan Palmer is the father, and indeed this corner of the circuit is named after. Well, in fact, I should say the man that the corner is named after. That was a stumble over my words, but I won't stumble as our drivers don't, as they roar their way up towards Agostini at turn number 4, and hard on the brakes they'll go then. That's going to be one of the major contention points as they head in towards the second of the hairpins, where they come sweeping out of there and in towards Hamilton, a quick left-hander, where it's all about managing understeer, and into Oggie's corner at turn number 6 and 7. They'll need to nail the apex at turn 6 to get it right for the kink of 7, and into Williams' corner at turn number 8, named after Sir Frank Williams, before they make the way onto the second long straights, and that's the gently back straight, heading all the way up towards the chicane of Brundle into Nelson. And they managed to keep it on the track there through turns 9 and 10 after coming underneath the bridge and out of the right-hander. They then got to run through Bomb Hole Corner at turn number 11, which is a major depression in the road as they roar the way through, and then they'll be launching their way out towards Coram Corner. The long right-hander never seems to end at turn number 12, but it very quickly does, and they'll find themselves heading to Murray's at turn number 13, the left-hand right-angle corner, to complete the lap before doing it all over again as they charge uphill towards that finish line. But as our drivers get set and ready to go racing today, let's give you a reminder of the rules because we can't go racing without them. Setup-wise, drivers shall run a fixed setup as provided by the Middle of the Pack Racing League. Fuel loads being restricted to 27.3 litres, but it does mean they won't need to take on fuel in the race. We're not expecting any pit stops unless it's for damage. Qualifying-wise, an open qualifying format shall be used, which lasts 15 minutes and split into 2 equal halves. In the first 7.5 minutes, we'll see the AM drivers take to the circuit, and in the second half, we'll see the pros take to the circuit, and everyone should have plenty of time to get a valid qualifying lap in amongst their peers. In terms of the sprint race, the race shall start by a standing start, as is the tradition of the Winter GR86 Championship, as hosted by the Middle of the Pack Racing League. Each driver has one fast repair available should they need to use it, and if a driver picks up 15 or more instant points, they will be subject to a drive-through penalty, and track limits here might be one of the big question marks that could potentially influence the outcome of the race, and we haven't seen any drive-through penalties so far, or anybody reach that 15-point limit count, but could we see a driver or two be at risk of doing so today, because Snetterton is very aggressive on its track limits? Well, we'll have to wait and see, ladies and gentlemen, because let's return to the circuit side, and as we do, the circuit's fallen relatively silent. We've got a couple of drivers still out there looking to get some final practice laps in, including none other, as we say hello to him in the YouTube chat there, none other than Edwin Offret, and I hope you're doing well, Edwin, and having a great weekend so far. And as he makes his way in towards turn number 3. On the left-hander there, well, after what was a round number 1 that he saw the majority of the racing spent battling with Nick Bader, and round number 2 last time out, not quite working out the way he wanted it to, but did make a great recovery drive after an early instant. Well, for an off-road today, he'll be hoping for a much more straightforward day today. And well, if this practice session is any indicator, if he can set a pole time in qualifying like he's done here in the final practice session, I think he'll be feeling very confident that perhaps he'll be finally able to get his championship campaign truly underway. But conversely, as we look a bit further down the order, Keimer eyes there in at P10 currently at the P5 Pro driver in the number 88. He's found himself normally qualifying quite poorly compared to his number of his rivals, but he's come alive in the races. He'll be hoping for a bit more over the course of the race distance today as he heads down in towards turn number 1. But coming from Pro drivers to our AM drivers, we're looking to Nick Yakubov there, who I think has had a bit of a spin, and that's Agostini on the exit. Remember, these setups have no traction control applied to them, so drivers are running without traction control, a very light amount of ABS or anti-lock braking system, and that makes these Toyotas very tricky to drive compared to how they come out of the box, and that's just to add to the challenge there. It's about trying to deliver what is that approximate 220 horsepower for the 4-cylinder 2.4 litre Boxer engine that Toyota worked on in collaboration with Subaru, trying to get the most out of it as they head on around the circuit. But as we do see Yakubov getting himself back up to speed, a lovely run there out of Williams corner. We've got a minute left on the clock, and we also do look to Mark Senegal, the Sunday GT Turtles driver, who found himself in that brilliant battle with his teammate Roger Ganesh last time out at the Motorsport Arena Oschersleben. In the end, they settled the difference between the two of them, and it was none other than the 227 driver of Senegal who managed to finish just ahead of his teammate. But I get the feeling we could see some more exchanges today as they head out towards what will be that qualifying session. But the man, of course, everyone's trying to beat is this man from Bear Pope Zero. You can see him there in the blue and yellow livery machine, just part behind the man who tried to beat him last time out in the Breakfast for Dinner privateer machine, and that is none other than James Logsdon. Will be very eagerly looking to make it 3 wins in a row overall and in the Pro class. And well, elsewhere, what about in the AM class? Well, what can Nick Bader do? Given the fact you can see him there in what is the light blue and black machine, he's currently quite far down in terms of the AM final practice times. But then again, practice is practice. Qualifying is where it matters most to put yourself on the grid, ladies and gentlemen. Our drivers will all know that, and we're about to find out who knows it best, because it's time for qualifying, and we will be back in about 30 seconds time to get qualifying underway. And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Qualifying is go, go, go. 15 minutes begins to tick away, and all of our AMs are released out of the circuit for what is the first half of qualifying. So 7.5 minutes and an incredibly long lap. And we thought the lap at Motorsport Arena Oschersleben last time out in Germany was a long lap. Well, we add another 20 or so seconds onto the overall lap time here, and that's what our drivers are having to manage at Snetterton. So what does that mean for this qualifying session? It means you haven't got long to get your lap on the board. You've got the best part. Besides the outlap, 3 laps if you absolutely nail it in order to be able to deliver the goods, and that's where you can imagine as soon as that clock hits 7.5 minutes, our pros are going to be absolutely itching to get out there and to get their own laps in, because otherwise they may be at risk of losing what is that 3rd lap, depending on how long it takes the AM tries to clear the circuit. But as we can see there, a little bit of a wobble it would seem from Kyle Peterson, and also none other than Nick Bader. I think Peterson having a bit of a mistake there in the yellow Volt machine, and as he brings it back together, well, he does seem now to have tried to clear what is the growing traffic convergence for himself, Bader, and also Mark Sidigal. But all 3 drivers there now settling down. But you can also tell the fact they're very eager to get round on this outlap, because they want to be able to get all 3 qualifying laps in and therefore get the best possible time. Because again, with this being a fixed setup series, they are required to run the 27.3 litres of fuel at the start of the session. They cannot take the fuel out of the car. The only way you get the fuel and thereby the weight out of the car is by driving it around the circuit, getting those tyres warmed up, lighting the car, and in theory, your final lap will be your best one, as Peterson loses it there. Coming out of Oggies again, really struggling at the moment on this outlap, and I think just trying to get the power down on a relatively cold circuit, a cold compound. Also, Nick Bader there having a big moment coming out of Williams. So 2 drivers, well, one big name in the AM class in particular, Bader having some difficulty. Is this a sign of what's to come here? And could Snetterton be the shake-up that we expect it to be, particularly in the AM class? Well, conversely, Nick Yakubov absolutely flying around at the moment. He's currently the lead driver out there in the AM pack for qualifying, and well, coming around first in order to go into your first flying lap. The only accolade that gives you is the fact it gives you a clear circuit in front of you in theory. And as he makes his way out of the final corner, coming out of Murray's and up towards the start finish line, down the centre straight, or up the centre straight we should say. Well, here he goes, and as he does so, well, he's got a little bit of company behind him, and it may be worth noting he's got Blake Phillips tucking right into the toe, and something tells me that Blake here might have been doing quite a bit of studying between rounds 2 and 3, and I think he's come into today thinking, you know what, it's about time I stop finish second place. I stop being the bridesmaid and I finally become the bride. And as he comes out of Riches down towards Wilson, he goes onto the brakes. You can see that body language there of the car, all the weight getting compressed onto the nose under the heavy braking zone, and now coming out of the hairpin. Well, Phillips is going for it, but Bader as well is pulling him along. Well, not Bader, Yakubov is pulling him along, and Nick Yakubov right now will be also hoping the slipstream slots machine. He's not too far off the pace when they get to the end of their first flying lap. But as they head on around elsewhere on circuit, Mark Sinegal coming down towards the end of his outlap, and now on to his first flying lap, and quite some way behind. 3 minutes already clearing the session. I think he might be at risk of not getting a 3rd qualifying lap in if my mental maths is correct, and well, if so, this is definitely going to be a qualifying session. The Sunday GT Turtles driver might be up against it compared to some of his peers, but we'll have to see as he heads on through the turn 2 hairpin, rolling through there. You can see the car control just running slightly wide of the apex, but to be fair, dodging the apex curb itself isn't a bad thing, because the curbs around here are quite slippery when it comes to the amount of grip they offer. Indeed, at most circuits, curbs do offer less grip, but the idea is you want to use the curb, particularly in dry conditions, in order to widen the circuit. But sometimes trying to get the power down in the traction zone, particularly when you're in 1st or 2nd gear, that's where you can have the mistakes where the curb just bites back at you and simply goes, yes, you can use me for the width of the circuit, but I'm not going to offer you any more grip. And in fact, you might find yourself now going around instead. But speaking of drivers going around, oh my goodness, and that is a big moment into the barrier there, and that is Roger Ganesh, and I believe, unless I'm mistaken, that's on the exit of Williams corner. I don't think we're going to be able to get a replay of that, but Ganesh hitting the barrier, and I suspect they're just trying to get the power down too soon into the barrier, where he is able to tow back to the pits and head back out. But the thing is now that is going to completely compromise his qualifying session, and well, for Ganesh, can he get himself back up there? That's the question in time. As meanwhile, speaking of times to coming in, well, here come the first qualifying times in the AM class, and it's going to be Nick Yakubov, but meanwhile, behind him is Blake Phillips, who's going to be the faster of the two of them. They've crossed the line, and Phillips sets the pace at 2:07.643. 7 tenths behind him is Yakubov, and that is the delta of slipstream. Meanwhile, Glenn Bratton sandwiches himself between the two of them. 5.5 tenths off of Phillips this time, of 2:08.173. We've had Nick Bader just come across the line. He goes P4 on a 2:11.333. He's not happy with that at all. That is a long way off the pace of Bader. Perhaps he's just been trying to get some fuel out of the car, perhaps taking it a bit light and getting some more tyre temperature in, but he'll only get one more lap in, or no, in fact, he should just about squeeze in another lap after this. He's going to have to really go some in order to get that lap in. It's going to be right on the mark as Cole Peterson, meanwhile, crosses the line and goes P5 on a 2 at 8.900. Mark Sengel at a 2 at 8.107. So despite the fact that he's had a bit of a slow start to qualify, Mark Senegal is actually now started the crusade forward. And well, in all of this, I forgot to mention Marlon Brandel. Look at that, P2 so far, 4 attempts off of Phillips' time, but the driver absolutely nailing it early on. And we said earlier about the fact, much like Kyle Moraes, he struggled typically in qualifying, and he's normally found pace in the race distance, but this time he seems to be setting things out the blocks quite nicely as he heads into Hamilton at turn at number 5, and as he comes on through the left-hander, well, right now the student driver privateer will be looking to become the master by the end of today, whereas Roger Ganesh, well, he's yet to get a lap on the board, and well, he had to reset to the pit lane, so he is on another out lap, and I don't think Ganesh is actually going to get more than just one valid lap in after this one. He'll be able to go on to one final lap, but how good's it going to be? That's the problem, and I think right now a little bit of pressure might be building. He might have to settle for starting towards the back of the field. One of the upsides is we've only got 16 drivers here today. Not all of the grid could make its way to Snetterton, but we are expecting more of the grid to be at Alton Park in a week's time, and I think it's due to clashes with what is the Daytona 500 this week on iRacing, plus also the upcoming Bathurst 12-hour endurance event. But those are able to make it here. Well, it's 16 drivers, and we may not have the quantity that we had from the last 2 rounds, but we've definitely still got the quality of the drivers, and that's what matters most as we look to Blake Phillips. Well, going from Roger Ganesh there, has gone to his first and only flying lap if he's able to keep it together versus Phillips as he comes on through. Can he keep it together coming out of Murray's? And the answer is yes, he can. Just dodging the sausage curb. He's going to have one more lap after this, and here goes Phillips to the line. Well, it's not an improving lap, but we're going to jump on board with Blake Phillips. He takes us around for one more flying lap of the Snetterton Circuit. Zane down towards turn at number 1 and getting ready to go onto the brakes, and as he does so, they're braking at what is the 54, just a dab of the brakes, get the nose in 4th gear, carries a lot of speed and understeer with it, so Phillips already making a ham sandwich out of turn 1, and now braking at the 100 metre mark on his left hand side, down to 1st gear for Wilson Hairpin, nice and late on that apex, plenty of rotation as he comes on out, and up towards turn number 3 goes, into Palmer, it's a late apex, it's slightly unsighted because it's a long entry into the corner, and in Sunny you see the apex curb and takes plenty of it as he lets the car roll out and go onto the rolling high exit curb as he comes down towards turn number 4 in towards that braking zone. Well, now looking to his right hand side, looking for what is the 50 board there, trail braking all the way down the gearbox to 2nd gear, and you can see the car cutting around there as it's a spin for Nick Yakubov. So Yakumov's pushed too hard and has gone round when he was on a personal best. Into Hamilton goes Phillips through the left-hander. Mark Senegal holds the pole time in the AM class now for 2:07.581. He's just got ahead of Phillips by 600ths, but Phillips having to go some here as he heads through Oggie's corner. Plenty of apex initially, but a bit too much, causes him to understeer wide. Coming out the second bar of Oggie's down to Williams' corner, dab of the brake, get the nose in, and back on the throttle as quickly as possible, but a lot of hesitation. I don't think Phillips is in the zone anymore. I think it's something that's got into his head here. He's just not finding a rhythm as he makes his way down the Bentley back straight. We're heading up towards what will be Nelson into Brundle, and right now with Brundle into Nelson, I should say, as they come into left into right underneath the entry bridge for the spectators. We'll come through the left into right, dab the brakes initially, now hard on the anchors here, all the way down to 2nd gear, pointed towards the apex curve, and then back on the throttle immediately as he now heads into Bombhole corner through the right-hander at turn number 11. Plenty of apex there, lets the car be launched out, a lift of the throttle to settle the car down on the exit, and now into Coram corner. He'll take a wide line initially and then turn the car in looking for that late apex. Keep it over to the right, hold it, hold it, hold it, and now onto the brakes here, 100 metres from apex, and as he heads out Murray's corner, what's it going to be for Phillips here? Well, I don't think it's an improving lap. He's gone what is weaker in the 1st and 2nd sector, and Phillips into the pit lane. He's not happy with it at all. And meanwhile, one driver who is happy, and he's coming towards the line. It's looking to be a personal best for Nick Bader, who's currently P9. He needs this urgently. What can Bader get right at the end of this qualified session? It's provisional pole for Nick Bader. He's absolutely sweeps that out of nowhere. A 2:07.411, almost 2/10 faster than Mark Senegal. But can Senegal go faster? Can the Sunday GT Turtles driver upset the apple cart here and prevent Bader from making it 3 AM pole positions in a row? And the answer is no, he can't. He comes into the pit lane. So therefore, unless after all the laps are validated by the automated track limit system, if that's to disrupt Bader's lap, well, if not, it means Nick Bader has taken AM pole once again, and what a lap, and leaving it right to the close, a 2:07.411. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are now into the pro session, and well, the pros already coming to the end of what is their initial out lap, and well, as they do, now they'll be looking to try and get these laps together as quickly clear as possible, given the fact they've only got 5 minutes left, and well, if they time it right, they will get 3 flying laps in. But those who go out the pit lane later, they may find themselves, in fact, struggling to get what is 3 laps in. It may just be the 2. But John Lauzon, well, the leading driver's out there. James Logster as well. He's the lead pro driver, making his way on through, the current championship leader. As we do say hello to his brother Eric there in the YouTube chat, who's cheering on James today. And we're glad to have you tuning in with us, Eric. And as our drivers make the way on around, we do see Logston right now just leading the way out there. But no, he's got to get the job done in qualifying, because otherwise he may find himself back in a very enticing battle with John Lauzon. And we hope for that, of course, because we love to see the battle after what we saw between the two of them. The sparks flying at Motorsport Arena Oschersleben, where they kept it absolutely clean and consistent throughout. And in the end, it was Logston who just seemed to have the final 5% that was needed. But as we did see a brief run wide there from other drivers, other IT West drivers, and I believe that might have been Bryce just taking a little bit of a trip to the weeds. We're keeping it within the confines of the track limits just about, and using the exit curb there as much as possible. The 72 driver here setting the car down and heading in towards Williams corner. But what an end to that AM qualifying session, and now the pros here have got to up the ante, and well, the track has been rubbered in a bit more by what has been our AM drivers, so therefore the pros will be feeling as though this circuit is going to come alive a little bit quicker. They'll still need the out lap plus their first flying lap to really get the tyres in the optimum temperature window, and then it's all about getting the fuel out of the car and setting the optimum possible lap, as we do look to George Louise, and as he heads on through the left hand there. Well, right now currently in what is P16, not having set a lap time, and therefore we are waiting to see what his lap time will be, or his lap times shall be, and which one's going to count towards the best. But he's the last of the runners out. He's giving himself plenty of space out on the circuit, and perhaps wanting to have a lot of breathing room here in order to just be able to get the laps together, and that's not a bad thing, to be fair. Perhaps he feels like he doesn't need that third lap. Perhaps in the end he's just going to go for the 2 and be happier with some breathing room. But James Logston comes towards the timing line then, and as he does so, this will be the first pro lap on the board. It's a 2:06.129. My goodness, that's an incredible lap out the blocks there. And well, normally what we see is when our pros come through, the fastest pros are about half a second at most faster than the top AM time at the end of the AM qualifying session versus the first pro laps that are set. But for Logston to go 1.3 seconds faster, my goodness, well, arguably on paper you would argue that's about 7 to 8 tenths given the length of the circuit and the differences between this circuit and the previous venues. But Logston going something, in fact, almost 6 tenths faster than John Lauzon's initial lap time. So Logston here coming with an absolutely brilliant package, and therefore delivering on the out. As you can see, Lauzon, they go very, very wide on the exit of Palmer. I think that's pushing the track limits a bit there. I think that might have invalidated that lap, and he'll have one more lap available to him. But I think this one is going to be now about getting that fuel out the car and just trying to find the limits. And the next time around, he won't be able to push himself beyond those limits any further, because of the fact the track limit police will be stopping him from doing so. But Kai Moraes, as he heads on out of Palmer corner, the yellow machine right now heading down towards Agostini and on towards the brakes. The student driver from Brazil, and as he comes hard onto the anchors there, well, right now I think thinking about what can he do in terms of qualifying time, given the fact that he is the only driver without a valid lap on the board as it currently stands, and we won't be starting all the way from the back row of the grid. But then again, he might be able to avoid a little bit of drama early on, but his rivals will be able to make their way a little bit further away in the early stages. And just a reminder, of course, he initiated the driver score points based on overall finishing position first and foremost, the only exceptions being the fastest lap points, which is 2, well, in fact I believe it is 2 points for the fastest lap in the race, 1 point for what is pole position in qualifying. It may be the other way around, so don't quote me on that. And of course you do have the bonus points in the AM class for what is finishing first, second and third. 3 bonus points for first, 2 for second and 1 for third. But otherwise it's all about where you finish overall, and that's why when you're a pro driver you want to qualify ahead of the AMs as much as possible, because otherwise they'll want to take you on all the way through the race. But as he heads his way towards the end of his second flying lap with a minute left on the board, well, Logston here not on a lap that he's too pleased with, I suspect, and this has been more of a warm-up lap for what's to come. John Lauzon, well, he has gone the fastest of everybody in what is the second and third sector. He does improve to a 2:06.138, but we reckon that lap may not count in reality, given the run wide coming out of Palmer corner at turn number 3. So therefore Lauzon's now got to try and find the right balance. He absolutely hammers it through Rich's corner. My good lord, he's absolutely going all in, and show you just how confident and committed he is. And well, that's taken my breath away. The number 77 driver here, he's got two sevens on the car. He'll be hoping it's for good luck. And well, right now he's feeling lucky as he comes on through Palmer once again. How wide does he go this time? We get a much better line this time. Doesn't run wide at all. And head down towards turn number 4. Will Lauzon here absolutely attacking. And come the end of sector 1, he's the fastest of everybody. So Lauzon here on what could be the fastest lap of the session. Logston has not improved by comparison. Edwin Offrare elsewhere coming out of Palmer down towards what is Agostini. Has an Offrare been able to improve? He's currently P3. He's 8.5 tenths off pole. He is on a personal best through sector 1 as the checker flag comes out. And I do believe that Kai Moraes is the only driver who is not moving at the moment. He's had a major moment coming out of Wilson into the barrier there. So Moraes having to bark up. He will be starting P7 at best. Aaron Law is the lowest placed pro at the moment in the lime green machine for the number 47 as he comes out of turn number 4 in towards 5. Well, Aaron Law right now 9. All the work's got to be done in the race after starting from the back of the field at Oschersleben, albeit he made a lot of progress over the race distance, but he would be hoping one day for an easier day at the office. But speaking of days at the office here, as Logston comes out of turns 9, 10 and in towards 11 he goes, coming all the way from Nelson in towards Bombhole, and then Coram, well, it looks though for Logston, he's on a personal best in the middle sector. That first sector, nothing to shout home about. Lauzon, meanwhile, has improved massively in the first sector. His second sector is weaker than his previous best, so it's all going to come down to the final sectors between these two, and with the delta's only 300ths between them, Logston right now will be hoping that he's done enough here. I think he'll be trying to lean forward his cockpit, try to push the car forward a little bit more, but what's it going to be as he comes towards the time in line? It's not an improvement from Logston. He does not improve. He stays at the 206.109, and Lauzon the same. A 206.1 is the best he's going to get, but it's not enough in order to dethrone Logston. What about an offer as he comes to line? Bryce there came in front of 207.195, so stays P4 but improves. An offer improves as well to 206.160. So the top 3 separated by half a tenth at the end of the session. But even with the closeness of qualifying, James Logston still holds on to pole position. My goodness, what a close qualified session. You couldn't ask for closer as Aaron Law improves to P13 right at the end, just out edges Louise to P13. So George Louise will be the lowest qualified pro driver started P14, but that is qualified complete, ladies and gentlemen. And what a session in the end. And well, it all came down to fine margins, and James Logston got the job done on his first flying lap to take overall and pro pole by 300ths over John Lauzon, with Edwin Offrare a further what was 200ths behind. In the AM class, it's a third row lockout. It's Nick Bader ahead of Mark Senegal, the two separated by 1.5 tenths, and well, it's a difference there in the fact that Blake Phillips will be starting a little bit further back and not in his customary P2 AM spot. And could the Sunday GT Turtles driver Mark Senegal today be the one potentially to upset the apple cart and prevent Nick Bader from making it 3 in a row? Well, we'll have to wait and see, ladies and gents, because it is a shuffled field. We have got the top 4 of pros, and then 2 AMs, and then you've got a pro followed up by 5 AMs. So the AM drivers I'm definitely going to feel as though there's a lot of points on the board today which are up for grabs, but will the Snetterton Circuit be kind or will it be unkind? Well, we're only going to find out soon, because we are only about 30 seconds away from heading to the grid for our one and only race of today. As we do wait for that transition, the Snetterton Circuit being a regular host of plenty of cup racing at a domestic level and also an international level in the United Kingdom. It definitely is one of the favourites of the country, and it's getting more international acclaim day by day. But now, ladies and gentlemen, our drivers that do make the way on to the grid, and as they do, well, this is how they're going to be lining up for our race of the day. So the grid appears on screen. It is going to be James Logston who takes his third pole position in 3 races of round number 3 of the championship here at Snetterton. He's joined on the front row of the grid, the pro driver, by fellow pro John Lauzon. The privateer there just missed out versus the Bear Pope Zero driver, but incredibly close. Edwin Offrare starts P3, the privateer ahead of Tom Bryce, the ITT West Interns Pro Esports driver there. Not quite on the pace of the top 3, but staying close all the same in terms of where his championship aspirations want to be. There it is to row number 3, and your AM pole sitter of Nick Bader starting P5 there, the privateer ahead of Mark Senegal for Sunday GT Turtles. And then we have on row number 4 Roger Ganesh for Sunday GT Turtles, just behind his teammate by the best part there of what is 3/4 of a tenth. And Marlon Brandel completes row number 4 starting at P8 there, the privateer. Completing the top 10, it is Glenn Bratton ahead of Aaron Law, the privateer there, followed up by George Louise, who starts P11 best of the rest. Kyle Peterson starts P12 for Caboose Crew, and then we have behind them on what is row number 7, the combination of Kyle Morais and Blake Phillips for Le Pit Club Sim Racing. And on the final row of the grid, it's going to be Billman da Costa for Bear Pope 0 with no valid lap, much like Blake Phillips in fact. In fact, Phillips, no valid lap at all. That is a big surprise. And Nick Yakubov as well starts P16, so multiple drivers not getting a valid lap in here after the laps were accounted for track limit breaches. Of course, we can't see that in qualifying until after the session is complete, but that is a big surprise. And Kyle Morais suddenly leaps up to P13, so Blake Phillips, the P2 AM driver in the championship, has got it all to do from P14, and well, he's only made his job harder by doing so. But as all drivers slot themselves into the grid, all 16 cars are on the grid, and the lights are going on. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, it is going to be lights out and away we go for round number 3 of the championship, as James Logsdon gets a good start there as they roar their way uphill towards turn number 1. Further back, look at Nick Bader and Tom Bryce already starting exchange blows. Edwin Offray has another slow start. He's got Bryce on his outside as they head into Rich's Bend through the right-hander, and Bader has to tuck back in behind Bryce as all the drivers roar the way through. Further back, Carl Peterson runs a little bit wide as Aaron Lahr moves around the outside of George Louise down in towards turn number 2. Onto the brakes they go, and as all the drivers come down, oh my good lord, and that's a big shunt there between, I believe that is Marlon Brandel, and who's the other car as well, the Sunday GT Turtles cars? I think that's Roger Ganesh who's been caught up, but that is a big shunt down to hairpin. That's completely upset the field. I think multiple cars were caught up in that instant, but they're the two main victims, or at least the two main belligerents of it, as Nick Yakubov has made his way all the way up to P9 already, capitalising on the chaos around him. Billman da Costa, meanwhile, almost at a 3 wide here. In fact, it will be a 3 wide down towards Agostini, and that is the limping car there of what is Glenn Bratton behind us. Up the inside goes Kyle Morais, and Morais trying to make some progress there up into P11 as da Costa's hung out to dry on the outside of Agostini. But that is a big moment right at the start of the race, and well, as we come back down to the closer pictures, we'll get a replay of that very shortly, ladies and gentlemen, as to what exactly happened down into that braking zone, because that was a huge shunt, and well, I think for many of our drivers it's going to be one that's shaking them a little bit as they now head deeper into lap number 1. Of course, they'll get plenty of laps in before the day is over. There being 30 laps on the cards, but already James Logsdon starting to pull a bit of a gap. 8 attempts clear as they head down towards turns 9 and 10, and as they head in towards the left into right, where it is going to be Logsdon, Lauzon and Offray. That's your top 3 heading on through. But further back, we've got Blake Phillips now looking for an opportunity here, and he's going to be trying to hold off Nick Yakubov, but Yakubov makes it too wide on the approach to the chicane, and looking around the outside now through Nelson. That's very brave of Yakubov, but he's going to get it done. It's brilliant racing there from Nick Yakubov, and the slipstream soft driver makes his way on through, and now Blake Phillips has got Kyle Morais trying to go around the outside of Bomb Hole Corner. That's not a common place for overtaking, given the fact you're naturally on an outside line and you will be made to understeer wide. But Morais is going to try and hold it all the way around Coram Corner to get the inside of Murray. But as he comes down in towards the braking zone, this is very bold racing from Morais, a very tight line. And in the end on cutback, he gets it, stops, because Phillips tries to cut back in and realises there's too much of the yellow car in the way to get a full cutback. Brilliant move there from Kyle Morais and takes the place. So after one lap, it is James Logsdon who leads by 6/10 of a second ahead of John Lauzon, followed by Edwin Offray. Your top 3 all pro drivers. It's also Prime P4 with Tom Bryce there being chased down by your AM leader of Nick Bader. He's P5, Mark Singles P6, George Louise P7, Aaron Lahr P8, Nick Yakubov is in P9, and then it is Kyle Morais P10 as they head in towards Wilson Bend for the second time of asking. But one of the biggest gainers at the start of this race being none other than Nick Yakubov, gaining what has been 7 places since the race start, absolutely flying. And as our drivers roar their way now onto lap number 2, well, there will be a little bit of settling down as we've got 2 drivers in the pit lane, Roger Ganesh and Marlon Brandel. But many of you will be asking what exactly happened there. We'll hold up a second, because that is not how you do Palmer Corner. And that's a bit of a rallycross line there if I've ever seen one. And that was Billman da Costa, Carl Peterson, Glenn Bratton all agreeing at the same time to go off there. I think all of them trying to push hard in the early stages to stay with the lead pack. I think with also Glenn Bratton suffering some damage. I think there's also some damage in the car of Carl Peterson. I'm not sure about Billman da Costa's, but all 3 drivers there definitely in wounded machines, and now just trying to salvage something out of this in the early stages and then settle it into the racing later on, as Kyle Morais has got Blake Phillips to company, and Phillips going to be looking up the inside here in towards turn number 8. Phillips goes for it now into the right-hander of Williams, and well, he's going to have the inside initially, but he won't be able to get as much power down on exit, given the fact he's on a tighter line. Kyle Morais there is able to get back ahead as a result. They've got no slipstream between the 2 of them here, albeit the distant whiff of slipstream potential of the back of Yakubov's car, but you normally want to be within a second of a car in order to get the toe in these GR86 Cup cars, so therefore it's going to come down to that exit, and that's how Moraes gets back ahead. You can see the frustration on Phillips's car already, the body language saying that he wants to get on through, and in fact so close under braking there as they made their way through what was Brundle into Nelson. And as we look back from the rear of the number 88, the pro car of Moraes, well, right now Blake Phillips being relegated to a battle for P10 when he knows that he's got the package here to potentially be chasing after a podium, if not the AM race win. But that race win is going to be going off into the distance in the hands of Bader, and it is already now the best part of 9 seconds up the road. It's a big runway there for Kai Moraes. He brings it back together, and that mistake is going to prove costly, as now here comes Phillips on the inside, and surely he's got to have this done as they head up towards the timeline. Elsewhere, we've had a change of leader for a brief moment through Rich's corner, and that was James Logston almost being passed by John Lauzon in the battle for the overall lead in the Pro League, but Lauzon not quite able to get the job done. But as they now head up towards turn number 3, we've got some replays to dissect, and the first one we are going to get very shortly after we take a look at Aaron Lahr here, who's just made his way out the inside of George Louise for P7. So Lahr making some very rapid progress after starting from what was P10 on the grid, albeit Louise is going to try and now force the issue into Palmer Corner, so it's not quite over yet as they go too wide through the left-hander, and made to mark our words here, and George Louise is not just going to roll over here and be passed as they head up towards what is turn number 4, but at long last one decides to back out. It is Louise who decides, okay, I can't force the issue too wide into Agostini, I'm going to have to wait, and that gives us time now to take a look back towards the leaders, who we're going to say right now that could be an overtaking opportunity for Lauzon in towards Oggy. He's not quite able to find it, but Lauzon's still close as they come out of Williams corner, and we ride on board here on the inside of where's the P2 car, the number 77, as it makes its way down the Bentley back straight. And as he comes on down, well, right now Lauzon close, but is he close enough here to think about a potential move? Well, surely there's got to be a devil on his shoulder that's telling him go for it, and the other one's saying don't go for it, it's too risky early on, and he listens to the angel rather than devil as they come down through 9 and 10 onto the brakes and just biding his time here. But I think we're going to see a mirror image of what we had was at Oschersleben, where Lauzon just constantly hounding and harassing Logston and trying to find a way in over the race distance. As behind a bit further back, we have had a change of P4 position, and Nick Bader has just found his way past Tom Bryce. But without further ado, let's get some replays, ladies and gentlemen, starting with what happened between Marlon Brandle and Roger Ganesh on the open lap. And here is the replay. Into the braking zone they went. Brandle on the inside, and a big pull over there from Roger Ganesh. I think Ganesh touched the grass there under braking, and that's what led to the incident, but a nasty one at that. And well, Roger Ganesh didn't get away with it better than Marlon Brandle, but both of them coming off in a nightmarish fashion. And goodness me, what a moment there. And I think Ganesh just putting the rear left tyre on the grass and under braking, the car snapping over to the right, and Marlon Brandle found himself in the wrong place. That could have been far, far worse for a good number of drivers in the field, but it wasn't to be. And then after that, of course, we had the free wide that was between none other than Glenn Bratton, and then also, I do believe that was Billman DaCosta and Kai Moraes, and well, they were able to get out of there absolutely succinctly as we return to your live racing. But as we do so, ladies and gentlemen, heading back to your live racing pictures now, we've still got plenty of race distance to cover, and well, unfortunately it does look as though our timer in the top centre of the screen has encountered a little bit of an erroneous glitch there. That does seem to happen every so often, but what we can tell you is that in terms of the number of laps we're expecting our drivers to race here today, we are expecting somewhere in the region of about 40 to 15 laps, so that's going to be side by side between Kai Moraes and Nick Yakubov as they come out of the corner. And well, as they do, Yakubov there, well, under a little bit of pressure, and Kai Moraes, but holds it off for now. But Moraes trying to make the move as quickly as he possibly can, but he's not quite coming together that time around as the drivers head on through at turns 6 and 7. But from them, we look back to the race leaders, and they are as they were only moments ago. And James Logston still holding on to that lead for the time being, albeit the pressure building from Lauzon and Onofre just watching and really playing what is the third-party game here to see when the time's right to potentially strike as they come out of Brundle and Nelson in towards Bombhole Corner. Looking back to Aaron Lahr, well, Lahr still on the back here of George Louise, and in fact these two swapped places quite recently because it was Lahr ahead of Louise last time we caught them, but I get the feeling at the start of this lap number 4, they had a bit of a change. Oh my good lord, and that is a big sideways snap there for what was Kai Moraes, and well, I think he might have been aided slightly by Nick Yakubov on the exit there, but I think he carried a lot of speed into the corner. We're going to have to find out what happened, but not before we find out what happens here with Blake Phillips going around the outside of turn number 12 in the 225. Can he get it done here? This is bold. We saw Kai Moraes do it earlier on today, outside to inside of Murray's, and now Blake Phillips absolutely echo that in a lovely bit of manoeuvring there from the AM driver to make his way past the pro. And I believe it was Kai Moraes who did it, Blake Phillips earlier today, so I think Blake Phillips has taken some inspiration from his pro rival. But as they head across that timeline to lap 5, looking back up to Tom Bryce and up the inside there of Nick Bader, so these two swapping places again. I think they might be playfully fighting here rather than getting too sunk into the battling, given the fact they don't want to cost each other too much time towards the top 3 up the road. The gap is 5 seconds, so I think they're just swapping the place back and forth at the moment. But Bader falling to 8 tenths back, but 9 he can potentially close back up. But he's also got to be mindful of the fact he's only got Mark Senegal, and Senegal is 1.4 seconds back and gradually closing as they head down towards what is turn number 4. But onto the brakes and out of Agostini they will roar, and as they do, with the 227 drive for Sunday GT Turtles can see that lead of the AM class just off in the distance, and he just wants to get a little bit closer as he heads up there. But meanwhile, we need to get a close look as to what happened to Kai Moraes only moments ago, and here is the quick replay, ladies and gentlemen. Well, this was coming down into what was Brundle into Nelson. Side by side they went. Moraes there on the inside to the outside and gets it absolutely stopped on the dime. Takes a lot of apex curve. The rear cuts loose, and in the end, well, we can't quite get the picture from on board what was Nick Jakubov's perspective, but losing the rear of the car, and I suspect there might not have been a tap, or if there was, it was a very gentle tap, and Kai Moraes having to get the car settled down as quickly as possible, and then Blake Phillips looking around the outside as we return to your live racing. But as we come back to the live racing pictures, we'll still plenty of distance to go here for our drivers. And, well, as time continues to trickle on and those laps continue to be accumulated, well, we are about 10 minutes into this race. We'll try and update on where the timer does stand, given the fact the timer does seem to have gone a little bit wayward there. We do apologise for that. All our replays, of course, courtesy of Arturo Mayorga, who's developed the software that enables us to capture these replays despite looking at an iRacing replay file. And thank you to Arturo Mayorga for that. Absolutely brilliant what we can bring to the broadcast now. And, well, as the drivers continue on through, well, whilst the laps maybe started to trickle up and the overall field has started to space out, the battles are not spacing out in any way. And if anything, they're only getting closer as we look a little bit further back to a battle for P5 in the AM class, P11, well, in fact, P12 overall. And this is Carl Peterson in the Volt yellow machine at the front of the pair. He's been chased down by what is the yellow and red machine of Glenn Bratton, the privateer car for Moser, as they head down towards turn 1. And Carl Peterson now, I think, experimenting with just how much track width there is into turn 1. Very easy to do as they come through the right-hander of Rich's corner. Well, from rags to riches will it be for Glenn Bratton as he tries now to look up the inside in towards Wilson. Goes away on the brakes here. Doors open. Peterson tries to cover it off. Oh, goodness me. Goes very deep, and Peterson just gets the car stopped in time and sees it coming in his mirrors and decides, okay, I'll just wait until Bratton sails past me. But that's some very good awareness there from Carl Peterson. Glenn Bratton decides to go all three. He had the overspeed. He may as well, but it didn't quite work out. Looking up to what is Agostini corner, we got Aaron Lahr passing George Louise there for P7 and just going up the inside. Louise not fighting it too hard, and I think deciding to wait the moment out, as there we just saw what was Kai Moraes getting on the inside of Blake Phillips, who almost went completely round there coming out of Agostini. And, well, I can tell you one thing, the Brazilian driver absolutely digging in versus Phillips right now, and it's absolutely brilliant racing between the two of them, because Phillips, as much as he wants to chase after Nick Jakubov, well, I think Kai Moraes wants those overall championship points. And as they head out of turn number 8 and upwards towards turns 9 and 10, well, they may be in different classes, but right now they're putting on a class act between the two of them, which is battling every step of the way as they head down the Bentley Straight and in towards what will be at Brundle into Nelson once again. Coming down towards that braking zone, will Phillips think about it? He does take a little bit of a quick look, but decides it's not worth it, and we ride on board here with the P11 driver in the 225 as he comes out of the right-hander for the Pit Club Sim Racing, and now looking to bomb hole corner. Well, that's a door that's been left open by Nick Jakubov, so Moraes decides to duck in there. He's absolutely loving fighting Kai Moraes. I've got to give him 10 out of 10 for this, if anything else. And as they come through Crime Corner, he sneaks on the inside. Will Jakubov now try and force the issue into Murray's corner? He's thinking about it, tries to go for it here, too wide, and there's a bit of contact between the two of them almost, as Blake Phillips takes one, he takes two, and it's 3 wide on the exit now, and Phillips there, being an absolute opportunist, he saw how he was going to play it and decided, okay, well, if I just duck to the inside, I'm going to get both places here. Kai Moraes tucks back in as they make their way past our start-finish straight gantry board, and as they come in towards turn number 1, well, right now, Blake Phillips, with a brilliant piece of overtaking finesse, takes 2 places and moves up to P9. I think that's up there for overtake of the season so far, and we've seen plenty of candidates, but I think Blake Phillips has just pierce the sky as there's elbows out there between Morais and Yakubov. A little bit of a rub between the two of them as they come down for return number 2. Well, hopefully it'll keep it clean. It'll just be rubs and nothing more than that. But the battling absolutely brilliant here, and Nick Yakubov now will be sat there thinking, okay, I've just lost all these places and I've got to find a way to get them back sooner rather than later. But what's this? We've had some drama. That's John Lauzon, who's dropped all the way down to P6, and that's at Agostini. He was in P2 at the time. What's happened to Lauzon? Because this is a complete upending of what was a very strong charge for the breakfast for dinner driver. And as Lauzon comes down to Oggie's corner, well, shortly we're going to get a replay to explain, but this is completely unexpected. And this may just release James Logsdon now to run away with the race victory, albeit we'll have to wait and see where he can bring it on home. But here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen, to explain what exactly happened to John Lauzon. This is coming down to Agostini, goes very aggressive there, and as he tries to get rotated, the rear of the car just cuts loose. He goes completely around as they get the car stopped, then gradually rejoin once the field makes its way on through, and John Lauzon just pushing too hard there, but knowing he's got to push to chase down Logsdon, and that's what Logsdon does to you. He makes you overdrive in chasing him down, and as we return to your live pictures, ladies and gentlemen, you can imagine for John Lauzon, he's going to be absolutely kicking himself with that one, because he's lost out massively as we return to live racing. And well, as we do, Lauzon under pressure from Mark Senegal, so he's down in P5, or in fact he's got himself back into P5 because he just recently passed Senegal off camera, and as they come up towards what will be the start-finish straight, we're now going on to lap number 8. We are the best part of what is 17 to 18 minutes over the race distance now, still plenty of laps to come, but it does mean that Lauzon is now on a recovery drive, and John Lauzon has no longer got the opportunity to chase down James Logsdon. You can see him here, the Bear Pope Zero driver in the 42, just in a world of his own, albeit 1.3 seconds between him and Edwin Onofre. He's not quite in a world of his own in the way that we've seen him in more recent rounds. However, the flip side of the coin being that for Edwin Onofre, it does look as though the privateer having to absolutely haul this in as much as possible. But saying that, in fact, he's just taken 3 attempts out of what has been Logsdon, so it is Onofre now deploying the pace he's been keeping on taps. He runs wide, they're coming out of Agostini. He'll get away with 1 or 2 run wides, and of course, that's the one thing that drivers sometimes do. They do save up their instant points to act as tactical off tracks, whereby they might use a 1 instant point or 2 in order to run wide and gain a little bit of time, as long as they know they're not going to be getting a slowdown penalty or a black flag penalty, as it's known, for picking up too much time by running wide. So therefore, Onofre might just be trying to push the limits right now to get himself a little bit closer, because if he can get within the toe of Logsdon down the back straight, well, being within 1 second, that's going to enable him to gain a couple of attempts. He's only gaining hundredths at the moment. In fact, he's now gained what is half a tenth by the time they get 2/3 of the way down the back straight. But the point being here, Onofre is trying to push hard to get into that toe, but will he succumb to the same fate of Lauzon, which is you're made to push too hard and you end up having a mistake? Well, from him, we look to Blake Phillips, who finds himself again once behind Kyle Morais early on, once behind Kyle Morais at the midpoint of the race, and now behind Kyle Morais again, but with Nick Yakubov now saying, okay, well, it's now my opportunity to take on an AM driver at that, as they head down towards turns 9 and 10. That's going to be Yakubov on the inside on the right of your picture, Phillips on the outside, but he's now onto the inside of what will be Nelson. Oh, goodness me! And Yakubov there just putting 2 wheels onto the grass, coming in towards Nelson, out of Brundle, and for Nick Yakubov, that has gone around, and it's gone down the running order, and well, the 288 driver absolutely brave and brazen, but I'll tell you one thing there, he ran out of room, and as he's got around, he's now dropped to P13. He's still got room to try and close up places in the remainder of this race, but it's definitely going to be one of those whereby he'll be a bit frustrated at that, and knowing that he's just cost himself some huge points. A big wobble there, and a big snap almost from Glenn Bratton in the 289 coming down into Murray Corner, and as he comes out of the corner now, he'll have left a long gap to Carl Peterson, who's moved up to P4 in the AM class as a result of all this, of all the trials and tribulations of his peers. So there's going to be a growing smile there on the face of Carl Peterson, knowing that things are all coming up good for him, and that has really been one of the stories of his middle of the pack racing league career that we have seen from Peterson over the course of 2024 going into 2025, which is he's not the fastest driver out there in the AM class, but he's one of the most consistent, and the thing about it is he's picked up podiums and top 5s on a regular basis by simply staying out of trouble and sticking to his guns and his lines. And will the Volt racing driver, the privateer machine right now, absolutely delivering once again again here, it would seem, at Snetterton. But from him, we must look back to the front of the field, because we said, could it be an opportunity for James Logsdon just to run away with Lauzon falling by the wayside? And the answer seems to be no, because as we look back from the rear of the leader's machine, the 42 is being chased by the 99, and Edwin offering now within half a second here as they're on lap number 9 of what we suspect will be a 15-lap race as they come down towards turns 9 and 10, in towards that braking zone. They get ready to go, but right now for Logsdon, he's just got to try and maintain that gap and put the pressure on and off rear to get close, and then also look for that final 5% of pace to try and affect a pass. But Logsdon at this time as well, 9, he can just preserve the car, he can preserve the tyres a little bit more by comparison potentially, but then again, could he be running at 100% himself here as he runs a little bit deeper into Coram corner compared to his rival? You see the differences in lines there, whereby some drivers will take a very tight entry all the way through, whereas those who can go to the outside, they try to sweep into the apex eventually. Difference in lines, but very similar outcomes. And as they head on towards lap number 10, the outcome at the moment is that James Logsdon is still holding the gap of only half a second as they head onwards towards turn number 1. Further back, we look back to the battle here for P6, and this is George Louise ahead of Aaron Lahr and Tom Bryce, and Bryce has recently had an off track that has demoted him behind these two, and in fact it's demoted him all the way down. Bryce was running at the time in what was P3, so Bryce has lost a lot of places and he's dropped down to P8, so that means Nick Bader now is your 3rd place overall driver. Your AM leader is on course for potentially an overall podium here, and that's going to be a huge haul of points if he's able to land that going into what is the Free Content Cup finale in round number 4 in a week's time. And therefore Nick Bader right now, I think he can't believe how things are coming to him, if things do finish as they currently stand, of course, because it's one thing to be in that position, it's another thing to finish the race in that position, and all the drivers behind him will be trying to close up as quickly as possible. John Lauzon being the prime candidate here as he comes on out of turn number 3, coming out of Palmer down towards Agostini, and he's absolutely roaring right now as Lauzon. In fact, last lap he was 1.4 seconds faster than Nick Bader, and well, I don't think we'll quite bring the lap times up on the screen, but I can give you the reference, which is hand over fist. He has been closing Bader down, and that last lap was 1.4 seconds. The one before that was 1.2 seconds. Lauzon is absolutely on a charge right now, and the only drivers that are faster than him are the 2 leaders of Logsdon and Offrare, whereas Lauzon is the fastest man out there by a significant margin. Everybody else around him is in the 207s. Lauzon is in the low 206s as he comes out of Williams corner and now onto the back straight. We look to Blake Phillips, and Phillips here caught behind Kyle Moraes, and I think these two still absolutely locking horns time and time again as the drivers head on around and up towards what will be the Bentley straight themselves. And as they do, well, Phillips, I think at this point will have seen enough of that yellow machine in front of him, and I think he'll be getting absolutely frustrated at seeing it. But that's the reason why the Middle of the Pack Racing League is so entertaining, the fact that you do have pros and AMs all out there all fighting for position, and they are encouraged to fight for position. So therefore for Phillips, this is just as much about the journey of trying to take P9 off of Cobra Rise as it is about trying to chase after other AM drivers. He'll still take P3 in the AM class regardless of whether he gets this move done or not, but he'll want some extra points for taking a place off of Cobra Rise. He heads out of Bob Hole corner there, almost running wide, pretty much on the ragged edge of adhesion. But that goes to show you how hard Phillips is pushing as he comes down in towards turn number 13. As they make their way past the bollards and through the left-hander, well, coming out of there, and a new personal best for John Lauzon at 205.976, almost the fastest lap of the race from Lauzon. The fastest lap currently being held on to by was Edwin Offra at 205.62 to the nearest 100. So Lauzon still got a little bit of way to go, but the point being he's closing down Nick Bader. In fact, we can show you this battle for P3, and there is John Lauzon. We're right on board and looking back from the car of Nick Bader, and right now Lauzon has closed that gap up so quickly as they come through turn number 3 and in towards 4. And well, at this point, surely if you're Nick Bader, you've got to be thinking, as much as you would love to take P3 and that'd be some extra points up for grabs, that'd be another 2 points compared to P4, is it worth it fighting too hard? Well, the answer will be initially yes, it is, as Lauzon there's a big wobble, and I think Lauzon at this point just really trying to snap the car at the apexes, and the front engine rear drive GR86's overall drivetrain just not happy with the way he's driving it at the moment, because he is pushing that car through the corners and absolutely trying to get it to rotate more than it wants to. But as they come out to 6 and 7 and in towards 8, coming into Williams bend through the right-hander, and Bader right now holding on here, knowing that after this lap he's going to have to hold on for another 4 laps based on the time we've got remaining in the race. We'll have 15 laps, and well, that is going to be a tantalising task, which I think if he can pull it off, it'll be worth it in the long run. But coming back towards the leaders, we catch him just in time as they come through Bombhole Corner, and that's a move for the lead of the race. And Edwin Offre on the inside of James Logston through Bombhole, all the way through Coram they go, and coming down towards what is now Murray's Corner. Well, Logston waiting in the wings, looking for an opportunity. Can't quite do it at this time as we ride on board with the number 42 as he gets the better exit out of the final corner. Now heading up towards what will be the start-finish line, and it's turn one, and off it goes the fence in the middle of the road. Logston thinks which way to go. He can't decide. In the end, he decides to go to the inside. He doesn't want to be there. It's tight into Richards, but he's going to attempt the move. Either way, tries to get the door open. They come with the right-hander, and Offre holding that outside. Too wide they enter, too wide they exit, but Logston is on the inside now as they come down towards the braking zone for Wilson Bend. And Offre's going to look around the outside. You have to brake early if you're on the inside. There's not as much grip, and an Offre can't hold it around the outside, and Logston retakes the lead, and the Team Bear Pope driver, Bear Pope Zero, is absolutely shaking around right now, and I think he's trying to decide, okay, if I'm going to make it 3 wins in a row, how exactly do I break the toe from an Edwin Offre? And I think the answer is you don't. What you do instead, you just got to drive as defensively as possible in order to get this job done, and an Offre right now is no stranger to battling hard. That's no doubt about it. We've seen him over many a year in the middle of the pack racing league for the best part of the last 3 years. Absolutely attack in races, but right now, what ace up his sleeve has he got in order to be able to find a way past the man who seems absolutely determined and destined to win every race of the season? Well, as they come through turns 6 and 7, we'll have to see, but brilliant racing between them. You said it absolutely perfectly there, Eric, in the YouTube chat. Great moves by all, and I have to 100% agree. This race is absolutely pinpoint precise and perfect as they come out of Williams Bend. And well, ladies and gentlemen, let's take a look back at how that battle all started between Offre and Logston. Well, here is the replay, and it all began with a slow run off of what was Nelson for Logston, and that opened up the door for what was an Offre to look to the inside of Bombhole Corner. But as they made the way into Coram, and you'll see here the fact that Offre, I think, will feel as though he's got it done at this point, because Logston just tucks back in, decides to play the safe line. In fact, Logston almost takes the grass down and settles the car, but on exit, you'll notice just goes a little bit wide of apex curve, carries too much speed off the corner, and that's what enabled that move to come along. And at this point, it was all about the drag race up towards turn number 1, and you can see it Offre pull into the middle of the road, trying to shut the door there, doing just enough to do so. And as they headed in towards Richards Bend, more Logston decided, okay, if you're going to play it that way, I'll just do it on the inside and make you do the hard work of holding the outside. And that's how Logston in the end got back up into that lead position, albeit Offre tried to hold it all the way around the outside through the corner, but it wasn't to be by the time they cleared Wilson Hairpin. So let's return to your live racing, ladies and gentlemen. And as we do, coming back to it now, well, this is back to leisure. You think we were looking at a replay of what we just looked at, but we're not. We are back to the live racing, albeit Logston and Offre still fight each other. And we'll further down the order. Mark Senegal, I believe, has just managed to find his way ahead of Tom Bryce on the exit of what was Murray Corner. So now up into P7 is Senegal, still pushing on, and we're coming out of the corner up towards what will be turn number 2. Onto the brakes for Bryce, looking for that opportunity there to try and make some inroads. And Senegal's going to go very deep, and Bryce is going to be able to take that place down. I think Mark Senegal just getting a little bit too adventurous with the throttle pedal, and in doing so making an error there, which saw him step a bit wide. But as he comes down through Palmer Corner, where he will have an opportunity to make amends, given the fact he's still got this lap plus another 2 remaining, and heading inwards towards what will be turn number 4. Onto the brakes they go, and for Senegal, absolutely right now, trying to get himself locked in and holding on to that P2 in the AM class, because Blake Phillips and Kyle Moraes, well, they're coming up rapidly behind. It's Phillips in particular Senegal has to be wary of, who is only, 2.5 seconds back in P3 of the AM class, and I think he'll want to try and make it 3 P2s out of what is 3 races, albeit Mark Senegal is going to break that trend if things finish as they currently stand. But from them to Aaron Law, who's still trying to hold off George Louise. These two have been battling back and forth for what has been the best part of the last 6 laps in their battle for P5. And well, they've got Tom Bryce only now 1.25 seconds behind, as here comes Louise, getting very close in the tow. Now looking up the inside then in towards what will be Brundle into Nelson. And well, the blue and white machine of Louise there goes all in. Law holds the outside to inside, but he can't carry enough speed. And George Louise gets a brilliant run through there and takes the place. Absolute textbook manoeuvre there. And well, now George Louise will try and break away in P5. as they head onwards towards Coram Corner. Coming around through the long right-hander from them, we look back up towards the race leaders, and Logston versus Onofre. It's still ongoing. Logston has calmed things down at the front initially, but there's going to be a few more battles before this is all said and done, as they've come through the right-hander of turn number 2 and up towards 3 they'll go, and Logston hold on to that lead by 3.5 tenths. The gap has not expanded anywhere near to the half a second it was when they started battling, and in fact it has been locked down to 3 tenths or closer typically on average over the entirety of the lap. And you can see there in what is the absolute follow the leader fashion, Edwin Offred glued to the back of Logston's car and just trying to find that last little bit of time in order to get close as they head on through the Agostini hairpin. It's in a good 15.5 seconds back to your P3 driver, John Lauzon, who did find his way past Nick Bader. In the end, Bader's there with the AM leaders. These two are P3, P4 respectively. And then you need to look back to Anline George Louise with Lowe on the inside there into Palmer Bench. He's going to go for it nice and early this time in this lap. Oh, goodness me, a big door bang between the two of them there. And, well, no love lost between them, but here comes Bryce as well. This is the fight for what is 4th place in Pro, P5 overall. Lowe on the inside there having to hold off Bryce. And George Louise, I think, will be looking back and thinking, you two just politely fight each other because I don't want to be part of this anymore. And I think Lowe and Bryce are saying, no, you're coming with us as well, as they head through Hamilton Corner and through the left down into the right-hander of Oggies. And you can see there, Lowe now having to go defensive versus Bryce is all over the back of him. Louise might be able to, if he gets a good run out of Williams Corner and is not harassed down the Bentley Straight, he may be able to finally break away from this battle, but we'll have to wait and see whether that becomes a reality as Lowe goes a bit wide there, puts a wheel onto the grass, and you can see Louise here having to weave from side to side. He doesn't want to be a part of this anymore. He wants to break the toe, and that weaving, it won't be deemed too excessive as he calms it down, and therefore he'll make the break just about. But as they come in towards Brundle into Nelson, further behind them, you've got Mark Senegal and Kai Morais fighting, 2 wide almost on entry, and the reason why Senegal wants to get back on this battle is because of the fact that he's got Blake Phillips close in, as that's a spin for Tom, what is it? I believe that's Tom Bryce, and also Kai Morais is off, but we've got to hold the phone there because coming back to leaders, it's the final lap, and Logston goes defensive into turn number 1, and Nofre looks around the outside. He can't quite find it at the moment, and Logston immediately pins the car down on the inside there down to Wilson, saying, I've seen that one too many times on the BTCC broadcast. And as they come through turn number 2, well, Nofre right now looking from left to right. He can't find a way in, and as they head in towards Palmer Corner, you can see Nofre, he's trying to get his nose in into the left-hander. He can't do it. Logston goes defensive, and Nofre cuts over just in the nick of time to try and unsettle Logston's car. But right now, Logston showing no signs of wilting under the pressure as they roar their way now up towards the second hairpin of Agostini. In towards the braking zone, Logston puts the car back in the centre, and Nofre decides, okay, it's not for me to look for the move here so far, so therefore where else can he go for it? Well, arguably anywhere. This circuit offers overtaking opportunities at each and every corner, but if you're Edward Offred, surely the thing you've got to be prioritising right now is a solid run out of Williams onto the back straight. And as we ride on board with the P2 runner in the number 99, trying to break what is the stranglehold that James Logston has on victories this season. He's made it 2 overall wins out of 2, and he's almost there to a 3rd win out of 3 overall, but can Onofre prevent him from doing so? As they come out of Williams, Logston's had the better exit. Onofre is gaining now on the toe, but they're already halfway down the back straight, and Onofre at this point is running nice and tight in the toe. I don't think he's going to be close enough to look for a move here, so then it's all going to come down to the exit of the last couple of corners as they go from left into right. And well, the hardest corner of the circuit is this run through Brundle into Nelson, but now as they exit 3.5 tenths of the gap, Bombhole's not going to create an opportunity, so it'll be 2 corners left as Onofre gets a much faster run out of Bombhole now into Coram Corner. But what can he do here other than wait and watch? Surely there's no other way in as they come on around down in towards what will be Murray's then, and will Onofre throw everything in at this? No, he won't. Instead, he'll look for the exit, but Logston gets a good round up the corner. It's now drag race to the line. The checkered flag is waving, but who's it waving for? Onofre is closing, but I don't think he's good enough. And in the end, the checkered flag will fall, and James Logston takes victory at Snetterton overall in the Pro class by 2.5 tenths over Edwin Onofre. My goodness, what an end to the race between the two of them. Brilliant race into the checkered flag. It will then be just about P3, for which will AM winner Nick Bader, who takes AM victory and his first oval podium of the season, ahead of John Lauzon, who recovers well to P4. It will then be in an absolutely terrific fight for P5. George Louise, who holds on to take the final spot in the overall top 5 ahead of Aaron Lahr. He's absolutely ecstatic with that. Blake Phillips will come on home to take the run-up spot in the AM class. P7. excuse me, ahead of your third place AM finisher, Mark Senegal, who lost out right at the end of the race. And then it will be Tom Bryce, who takes P9 ahead of Kai Moraes, who, much like with the mistake that we also saw for Kai Moraes, finishing P10 there, and Bryce and Moraes both losing out right at the end. Best of the rest, P11 was Cole Peterson ahead of Glenn Bratton, P12. We've then got a few more drivers to make their way to the finish line, ladies and gentlemen, including what is here, Nick Yakubov, who comes to line P13, P6 of the AM class, and then we do have Billman DaCosta, who will be coming on home in P14. I must apologise to Eric Logston there, as I do believe, in fact, Eric is James's father rather than brother, as I do see him saying that's my boy in the YouTube chat there. So I think father very proud of son in taking the overall win, and Billman DaCosta takes P14 there. Bear Pope 0 at opposite ends of the field today, and Billman DaCosta 9. It's just not been his day here at the Snetterton 300 circuit. Roger Ganesh will be your final finisher of this race. He will take P15 there, and the Sunday GT Turtles driver after that open lap incident between himself and Marlon Brandel and a number of other drivers slightly affected by it. Well, in the end, it was a race all about getting it to the checker flag. But as Logston makes his way on down, he'll be absolutely overjoyed with that performance, and what a drive for the 42 driver. Again, under early pressure from John Lauzon, but he made John Lauzon overdrive and lose out. But Edwin Offred then rose up from the ashes of John Lauzon's charge, but James Logston cooled things down and held on all the way to the finish. And as he misses the pit lane entry there, I think he wants to celebrate on the start-finish line straight, and who can blame him for it, ladies and gentlemen, as he comes on down there. Well, 3 wins in a row. My goodness, it's such an incredible performance. He parks it up there. I mean, if you wanted to grab photos, he's done exactly that. I think that is photo-worthy. And James Logston, the man to beat now, as they head into Alton Park in a week's time. But as all the drivers cool on down, well, it's been a great day for Nick Bader to take the AM victory, once again making it 3 out of 3. So we have had winners in both classes at 3 out of 3 races now. Nobody's been able to break the status quo to date, and then Nick Bader making his way on into the pits. Well, George Louise doing the same, but that's all we've got in terms of our footage, ladies and gentlemen. We've run out of tape, and let's take a look to the scenic view, and indeed I believe we can bring up those results. But as we bring out those results, ladies and gentlemen, we can see after what was an absolutely brilliant race overall, James Logston taking victory there for Bear Pope 0 by the best part of 2.5 attempts over Edwin Onofre. Your overall podium was rounded off by Nick Bader, P3 there, and your AM winner. Congratulations for Nick Bader for bringing home what was that first overall podium of his for the season. That'll be a huge points haul, plus also the 3 bonus points for the AM victory, which we'll come into shortly. And it was John Lauzon and George Louise who completed your top 5. Aaron Lart, P6 there, and another solid drive from the lime green privateer machine. And much like with what was the battle in between himself and George Louise, by the highlights of today, and both drivers making big gains, it was then a run-up spot in the AM class, P7 overall for Blake Phillips, who makes it 3 P2s in a row in the AM class for Olympic Club Sim Racing, ahead of Mark Senegal, the Sunday GT Turtles driver, just missing out at the close. Tom Bryce, P9 for ITC West Interns Pro Esports Division, ahead of Kyle Moraes, and then best the rest, P11, Carl Peterson for Caboose Crew. It was Glenn Bratton, Nick Yakubov, Billman DaCosta, and Roger Ganesh who finished off what was your lead lap finishers and your finishers of the race, and then unfortunately retiring after the open lap due to that open lap incident down into turn at number 2, Marlon Brandel there. 16th place, but classified as did not finish, as he did not finish the race within 5 laps of the race winner. We'll then come on to the individual class finishing positions, and as we can see, James Logston there, starting with the pro class, your winner by those 2.5 attempts over Edwin Offre, with John Lauzon completing the top 3, and Lauzon will be absolutely gutted to miss out on P2, but knowing his recovery to P3 will still be invaluable as the championship pushes on. George Louise with a great run to P4 in the pro class, ahead of Aaron Light, and a great little battle between the two, 4 tenths separating them at the line. There's a further 10 seconds to Tom Bryce for ITC West Interns Pro Esports Division, with that late spin coming out of what was Nelson Corder cost him dear, and Kyle Moraes the same with that mistake, and Nelson Corder seeing him relegated to a P7 finish in the class. Then last but no means least, coming on to the AM class, and we see Nick Bader there, your AM winner, taking the 3 bonus points for the AM victory, the priority ahead of Le Pit Club Sim Racing. and Blake Phillips finishing home what was in the run-up spot P2. It was a further then 2 tenths to Mark Senil for Sunday GT Turtles, just missed out on the line there, but still he'll be happy to now was an AM podium and take 1 bonus point, ahead of Carl Peterson for Caboose Crew, and then Glenn Bratton completing the AM top 5. Nick Yakubov was P6 for Slipstream Sloths in a difficult day today, and I think it's definitely going to taste a little bit foul in the fact that he was looking so strong in the early stages, but it all went backwards in the midpoint onwards, with Wilman Acosta P7 for Bear Pope 0, and Sunday GT Turtles, Roger Ganesh there being the last of the AM finishers, P8 in class. And then we did have your non-finisher and Marlon Brandel there with that retirement after 1 lap. So that concludes all of your racing here today, ladies and gentlemen, at Snetterton 300 Circuit. And that means, without further ado, it is now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for tuning in, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to know more about the Middle of the Pack Racing League community in terms of what goes on behind the scenes, or how you can be on the grid for either later on this season or a future series hosted by the Middle of the Pack Racing League, well, for all that and plenty more information, we do recommend you head to the beating heart, firstly, of the Middle of the Pack Racing League, and that is the official Discord invite link available on screen there, where you can catch up with all the drivers and the staff and admin members as they operate in the Discord paddock and get things underway week in, week out. You'll never find a more friendly North American-based community than the Middle Pack Racing League, but it is open to everybody, regardless of where you are from in the world, whether you're based in the United States or much further abroad, there is a home for you in the Middle of the Pack Racing League. Alternatively, if you're a little bit shy or perhaps more of a social media inclined individual, you can of course follow the Middle of the Pack Racing League on Twitter, and our official Twitter handle is at twitter.com/MOP Racing, where you can stay up to date with all the latest news and announcements from the Middle of the Pack Racing League. But of course, it does mean we now turn our attention to on what is the end of the first half of the season, ladies and gentlemen, and we bring that to a close and the conclusion of the free content club with round number 4 of the championship at the Alton Park Circuit in the United Kingdom. Of course, the racing will occur in a couple of days' time on what will be Wednesday, the 19th of February 2025, but come join us as if it were live on Saturday, the 22nd of February, where we will be crowning our free content cup champions. On paper, at least, in theory, it is looking to be James Logston, who is absolutely locked on for certainty in the Pro class, and Nick Bader, who's locked on for certainty in the AM class, with both of them picking up 3 class wins apiece in 3 races. But could there be an upset in the tail? Could there be a drama and something that completely tears up the history books? Well, for all that and more at Alton Park, and how the story of the free content cup concludes, and how we bring the first half of the season to a close, you're going to have to be there on Saturday, the 22nd of February, to find out how it all plays out. But until then, we've been the Middle of the Pack Racing League. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, have a fantastic rest of your weekend, ladies and gentlemen, and most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.